Hi, I'm John Cash. Welcome to John Cash Ministries and Revelations Church's daily devotion. Today we want to talk about bad news. How do you handle bad news? Let's start with the concept of where bad news comes from. Sometimes we have bad news and we think it came from the devil. Sometimes it does in the form of temptations. Sometimes our bad news comes from God, but we actually think it came from the devil. You know, not all bad news may actually be bad for the soul or bad for your spirit. In Jeremiah chapter 34, we find some of the worst news that somebody could possibly ever get, and that would be the king of Judah, Zedekiah. We're going to read the first three verses uninterrupted. And it says this: While Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and all of his army, and all the kingdoms and peoples in the empire he ruled were fighting against Jerusalem and all of its surrounding towns, this word came to Jeremiah from the Lord. Listen to this. This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Go to Zedekiah, king of Judah, and tell him, this is what the Lord says. I'm about to hand this city over to the king of Babylon, and he will burn it down. Now, there's some bad news. The king here in Jerusalem in Judah gets a word from the prophet Jeremiah. They're going to burn down Jerusalem. They can't burn down Jerusalem. Jerusalem had been around for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Jerusalem was a powerful, walled city. They were a powerful army. There's no way that Jerusalem is going to be destroyed. That's the kind of thinking going through this king's mind. Jeremiah, there's no way that Jeremiah is right. This is not from God. Jeremiah is coming to the king, and he's giving him some bad news. This bad news wasn't from the devil. The bad news was from God. Oftentimes, human beings, Christians, we get bad news and we think it's got to be from Satan. Not always. In fact, more often than not, it may not be from Satan. In this particular situation, the bad news was from God because the people in Jeremiah's day had fallen away from God. And they had decided that they're going to do things their way. There were plenty of prophets and pastors in Jeremiah's day that would prophesy good news. There's going to be peace and safety in Jerusalem. This king of Babylon's not going to destroy the city. And surely many of the kings that Jeremiah spoke to would listen to him, and then he'd go to the rest of the prophets and go, well, this is what Jeremiah is saying. They go, oh, no, Jeremiah's not right. He's always prophesying bad stuff. He's always saying bad news things. Don't pay attention to him. He's just negative. And people would try to get rid of him, throw him in a well. And here's the bottom line. We have to discern, is the news we're getting, whatever it is, from God, from Satan? Is God involved? And if it's all bad news, can God use that? And listen, folks, absolutely. God can take what seems bad and turn it into good. Sometimes the bad news we get is from God. Many times it is. Sometimes it's God's judgment on sinful behavior. Sometimes it's God's grace and mercy. He's trying to draw us closer to him, and he puts us through a test. What a test that Zedekiah was going through. Listen to the rest of this. I'm about to hand this city over to the king of Babylon. He's going to burn it down. You will not escape from his grasp, but will surely be captured and handed over to him. You will see the king of Babylon with your own eyes, and he will speak with you face to face, and you will go to Babylon. In other words, Zedekiah, you will lose everything. Your cushy power position, your fame, your fortune. You will lose your nation, your city, your heritage. You're going to lose everything. This was terrible news, and it came from God. Here is the question for you as I close. When you get bad news, do you get angry with God? Do you get angry with the person that gave it to you? But in particular, do you get angry at God, or do you accept it with humility, grace, and love for God and ask him to strengthen you through it. Getting angry with God, receiving bad news, is only going to invite more bad news and a further walk from God. But getting closer to God through the bad news is the way to go and the way to see God bless you. God bless you. Thank you for your support of John Cash Ministries and Revelations Church.